Does the world need another chair design? How has furniture shaped the world we live in today? Why is furniture design such a bellwether for creatives around the globe? I'm Danny Chung, furniture designer, industrial designer, and die-hard design enthusiast. Join me and my guests as we examine this highly influential corner of the design universe. It's furniture design out of the closet. This is modern furniture design. And welcome to the next episode, coming to you in isolation from outside the modern furniture design closet. Berto Pandolfo is a senior lecturer at the University of Technology, Sydney. He also served as an industrial designer for the legendary lighting manufacturer Floss. Each year he takes a group of students to the Milan Furniture Fair, aka Il Salone del Mobile. So sit back and relax as this Salone veteran walks you through the event and gives us a history lesson along the way.
Well, I don't think anyone forgets their first Salone. I was a master's student at the Domus Academy in Milan, 1992, and it was a great, you know, might have been less than a week, but it seemed like a week of true excitement. It was like it was like, you know, the Academy Awards. You know, there was a real positive vibe in the city. There were special events that you were eager to try and get some pass to get into. For the first, from 92 and then onwards, it was in the early 90s. It was all about getting into Capellini.
Yeah.
Capellini had a big event. They had a big hall in the area where the Zona Tortona is now, and I think they were really responsible for making Zona Tortona what it is today. And that was a massive event. It was the who's who of design. It was like a rock star event. It was packed. There was music. It was amazing. And as a young designer, that was energizing. You know, it was really thinking, wow, this is, you know.
This is the epicenter.
This is it, yeah. I'm glad I'm here. Milan is it. So, yeah, you never forget the first one, that's for sure.
So my first one, I think, was maybe 2002, 2001. And I don't speak the language very well. Well, at the time at least. Yeah. And I was there on my own, so I didn't really understand what was on offer, really. I mean, I did see some fantastic things, but I don't think I saw everything because I didn't have the language. I don't think at the time there was a really good map of what was available to see. These days, I'm sure it's highly more, it's highly improved in terms of telling people where to go, what's on.
Oh, yeah.
But like you, at the time I was a young designer. I think I was there on the back of an Australia Council grant for design, and I just found it so inspirational. The atmosphere there was fantastic. I've always loved, you know, Italy for many different reasons, but Salone was just an amazing event to go to.
Salone is unique because in Milan, because you know, Milan and Northern Italy is a sort of a design hub, absolutely, and they have a huge fashion week as well in Milan, like Paris has fashion week, but it's not like the furniture fair. The fashion fair is closed. It's all behind closed doors. You wouldn't know it was going on unless you were in the industry, and only those in the industry get to go. So it's very elitist. And the Milanese, they understand that, and they very much enjoy the furniture fair. It's something that I discovered over the years, that they really appreciate the visitors, everything being on show, and even the Milanese get out and have a look, because of course they're interested, okay? So the furniture fair is a great event, even for the locals.
Right. And so just give us a brief history of Salone. How did it rise to such prominence? Like, it's the biggest event on the design calendar every year. How how did it grow to such fame and
Okay, so
popularity?
The public expression of design in Italy sort of began in the mid 20th century. Okay, but it was predominantly very pragmatic and a promotional type event, and it wasn't until the mid 60s when some students, design students and professionals, they stormed the Triennale and protested against, the current state of the exhibition. They thought there was a complete lack of social responsibility. They thought this, pampering to purely commercial desires was incorrect, and so there was tremendous protest, there's activism, and it's out of this period that groups like, radical design groups like Archism and Super Studio were formed. And I think this had a lot to do with, this is mid-60s, Italy is coming out of the war, is
a lot of cultural upheaval.
Yep, yeah. There's a lot of manufacturing, so they're very handy, okay, and they're supplying Europe with all of the things that they need, okay, and even the Italians with all the things they need, even beyond furniture, lighting, homewares, kitchen, that sort of thing. And so there's a lot of activity, and so that's humming along nicely. What happens in the 60s is this notion of, well, design's just not about beautiful things, it's about, social responsibility, it's about people and interactions with objects, it's about, the value of things, the value of manufacturing, so it becomes much more intellectual. And so then the furniture fair really starts to ramp up, and as it is today, you've got this sort of the commercial side of the furniture fair out at Row, at the exhibition grounds, and in the city you've got all the smaller individuals and the fringe of design, and that's not only furniture, all sorts of typologies are represented there. So you really get a mix, and I think that's where the true value of the Milan experience is that it's catering to all aspects of it and all members of the design community.
Right. Is it all about design though, or is it still very much a trade fair at its core? Do you see elements of not so modernist styles of furniture?
No.
Or is it all cutting edge, architecturally inspired design pieces?
No. If you go to Row, which is the big exhibition centre on the outskirts of Milan, there's 25 pavilions. There's only 3 or 4 that really house innovative design, and the rest is catering,
everyday furniture.
Of all the different styles.
Right.
Okay. Right. So absolutely, the exhibition centre is a commercially driven enterprise. Mm-hmm. In the city, however, sure, there's a lot of there's a lot of hope, mostly from smaller entities and individual designers wanting to break through, wanting to exhibit, trying to score a gig with a bigger company, really.
Sure.
So there is a commercial drive there as well. But there's also a lot of work that's purely, speculative and provocative in nature, which, is often the most interesting work. And so there's no commercial imperative there. They're just wanting to sort of show their capabilities and what design, can be.
So it still functions as a launch pad for young companies, startups, young designers as well, as much as it did back in the 90s and the noughties?
Well, I think the 90s is really that rock star period. Yeah. I think in terms of a launching pad, I'm less so, because you've got the internet now. Yes. and I think people have profiles that they can gain that way. But, there are still a lot of Italian companies that are very important and that have maintained their importance, and one way to get under their nose and show them their work is be present in that week and get some publicity and people talking.
So young designers still use it as a way to connect with bigger companies in the hope of being launched as a designer or being signed on.
Absolutely.
For example.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's become less, but it's absolutely most aspiring young designers still want to have a piece with Cartel, Capellini, Moroso, Cassina, you name them.
And are all the major design companies in the one zone or area? Or are they spread out in different districts?
So in Milan, most of the companies, there was a period where they didn't exhibit at the trade centre on the outskirts at Row. But at the
I only mention that, by the way, because when I went,
yeah,
it was actually kind of difficult to know where, for example, Capellini was for that year, because it used to change from venue to venue.
Correct.
Right, every year.
That's right.
So as a young designer, not knowing the language and not having a map that was any use really, it was difficult to locate where Alessi might have been, or whoever it was, Capellini, B&B.
Look, I'm sure back in the early 2000s it would have been really difficult without having that sort of inside information. And also because there's been a lot of movement. I know a lot of the companies protested against the trade exhibition, so they didn't exhibit there, they exhibited in the city. But I think in the end everyone still now has either both in the city and at the trade exhibition centre, or they just exhibit at the trade exhibition centre. And of course nowadays, absolutely all the material that's available for people, well, there's another problem now. There's so much to choose from. It's where do you go? Right. So I think that's the problem now. Is
how many days do you think you need to see everything that needs to be seen?
You don't get to see everything. Right. That's the first thing. There are hundreds of events, so you don't get to see. So which ones are you going to go to? I was there a few years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, and it was the Zona Lambrate. That was the area. It's a new area on the outskirts. These abandoned factories, and all the the cool hip designers with great offerings were there. 2 years later, it's dead. Right. And so the energy has moved elsewhere. Where's it moved? Sometimes that's difficult to sort of find.
And have I got it right? These days, there's a dedicated hub. Is there a newly built facility where they house a lot of the exhibitors, or have I got that wrong?
Now what happens is there are designated zones within Milan. So there's Zona Brera, Zona Tortona, Zona Lambrate. So these are areas that are now much more clearly defined, whereas in the past they weren't clearly defined. And then there's the trade centre out at Row.
That's maybe what I'm thinking about actually. Yeah.
And who knows, this year, in April there might be something else emerge.
Yeah. So April in Milan, it's a little bit chilly from my memory. We're coming out of winter, so you do have to wear a coat. I'm trying to give our listeners a sense of what it's like. Can you maybe walk us through the furniture fair? How do you get around? Is it usually by foot, or do you take the metro? Just walk us through a little bit of the fair.
So the climate can be cool, but we've had years where it's been really hot. So it's that transition period. So you do need to be prepared. Yeah. Additionally, you need to be prepared to walk. The metro system's fantastic, but for example, the trade fair, trade exhibition centre, it's enormous, and so there's a lot of walking. And the other thing to be prepared of is the jammed metro on the way out. Okay, it's just like those pictures you see in the Japanese metro. People getting pushed in. It's absolutely jam packed. So that's one thing, and then the hordes of people from the metro stop that flow to the entrance of the trade exhibition centre. It's an experience. So there's just thousands of people from all around the world coming to this event, which is again energetic, because designers from Australia or from remote areas around the world might not perceive design to be this sort of huge thing. When you're there in Milan, it's big business, and there's a lot of people. So that's really exciting. Then once you're in the trade exhibition, once you're in, people tend to dissipate into the various halls.
Do you need a pass or anything to see things?
Yeah, like you need to be during the week. You need to be a member of the design community. You need to be a practitioner of some description, a retailer or a designer.
So that goes for the general public can't go into a Capellini exhibit?
Now, at the trade centre, on Saturday and Sunday, it's open to the public.
Right.
But during the week, it's only for operators.
Okay.
And there's still hundreds of thousands of those. And then once you're in, you've got to find, there are all these information booths. You sort of, designers tend to look for, where's Capellini, where's Cartel, where's Casina, blah, blah, Driede. And then they're generally in one pavilion. I can't remember the number of it, and you sort of start there.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, the goal is to be there on the first day.
Right.
Right in the morning of the first day, because that's when all the press is there and the designers are there. So your best chance of running into Stark or Morrison or whoever is be there on the first day.
Yep.
Because they're all doing the interviews, and it's again that energizing moment of this thing is really big and important, and you can be a part
and getting
of it.
a taste of celebrity. Yeah. I remember when I went, I just ran into designers just by pure chance.
Yeah.
So who did I see? I saw Patrizia Moroso.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patricia Aquala.
Yep.
Kareem Rashid.
Yep. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
But
Fantastic.
when I did see them, I was like so excited.
Yeah.
It was an amazing, inspirational moment.
Yeah.
And I was there at the right time.
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
Great. That's great. Yeah. Well, a few years ago, we ran into Philippe Stark. So I got the group photo of my students of Philippe Stark.
Yep. Fantastic. Yeah.
And then another time with Konstantin Gurcic.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's great because these people, they do great things. They're leaders in our field, and it's nice to sort of rub shoulders with them.
Right. And so, what's the primary reason you take students over to Milano?
Initially, I had this gut feeling that it's just an important event that they need to see, okay? And so organised it, made it happen, we took students over. I now realise that it's really important in terms of opening up their perception of the field, okay? Because they're students in Australia, they have an understanding of design, even through the internet they get a feeling of what goes on around the world. But until they're in Milan and they experience this behemoth of an event and the diversity, they don't really fully understand, and they come away thinking, they're blown away by the possibilities, the opportunities, and just the size of this industry that's really important, particularly in Central Europe, really important part of the economy.
And I guess it's for the fact that for, how long does it go for, 2 weeks?
No, it's like
1 week.
6 days, yeah.
Oh, so for 1 week of the year, it's the epicenter of the design world. So all of the big names are there. All of the ideas, the current ideas, the future ideas are happening all in one location. So I guess if you're a student or a young emerging designer and you follow an Instagram feed or however you get your design information, it's very fragmented. And I can see how that would be beneficial to take a group of students and just focus their attention on where design is happening for one moment during the calendar year. Yeah,
absolutely. These companies work around a schedule around the Milan Furniture Fair. So they'll present new products, in April. And so it's really important. It can be stressful for them, of course, because every year they've got to produce new work. And over time, you sort of see that maybe not a lot of companies do that, and so they might go to every 2 years, but nevertheless, that's where they're going to present their new collection. And if you go to the top floor of whatever pavilion, where Cartel and all the big guns are, you can walk around there and see all the latest stuff, in a morning, okay? And you'll see it all, and you get a feel for what's happening in design, in terms of color, textures, typologies, features. You can, if you're sensitive to it, you'll pick up on it And so it really is, a really important moment.
So my next question is around like the whole furniture design industry, the space. Why is furniture design such a trend leader? Why is it so? Why does every designer want to do it? It seems. How did it rise to such a level of prominence that people look to it every year for forecasting trends?
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Why is it furniture? Why couldn't it be something else, some other object or field of design?
Yeah, like fashion has a sort of a similar issue regarding renewal on a constant basis, more so every 6 months or even every quarter now. But fashion is a garment; it's very personal, and I wear it, sort of thing. And a piece of furniture is something that I might share. A piece of furniture is something that I'll have in my home. It's somewhere, a place I can relax and I can come back to. And so these sort of, really important feelings, I think, have a lot to do with why furniture is such an important product in life. We eat, we work, we socialise using furniture items.
We interact with it on a minute by minute basis.
We're always, we're sitting on chairs. With this table here, books and shelves. Absolutely everywhere. And also there's some complexity to furniture as well. Although some, a sawn off log could work as a stool, which is very simple. There's, complexities in the office chair that I'm sitting in. So furniture spans a range of complexity, of diversity, that I think really makes it a very rich typology of product.
Can I offer you my theory about why? I think it's because you can turn around furniture design a lot quicker than you can with, for example, architecture. So, 12 months development time on a new range of furniture or a furniture piece is very achievable for designers and manufacturers. So with that sort of tight development time and schedule, you're able to produce something on a 12-month basis. What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that ties in with the fact, one of the students early on one of my trips to Milan commented to me, why do we need all these new chairs? There are just so many chairs. And it's true. We don't really need them, but we do, okay? Because as a race, we are evolving constantly, okay? We are changing, things, evolve. And as we evolve, we need new things, right? Sure. Okay, so it's an absolute necessity to have these new products. And the furniture does fit nicely within that sort of scale of materiality and production, being able to produce something, because it can be produced in a small workshop or in a large factory. So it's a nice product in that sense. And so being able to sort of maintain pace with way life changes is really important. We can't do that with our houses, of course.
So you're saying furniture sort of facilitates innovations in manufacturing, it facilitates new ideas.
Yeah, well, look at stand-up desks, stand-up desks, right? Stand-up workstations. We've found that we're sitting too much, so maybe we can stand while we work. Right. That's going to require a new product. Yeah. And so these desks move up and down, and so that's a change. 30, 40 years ago, that was not at all part of an office environment. And you look at kitchen layouts, they've changed dramatically, because of people are cooking differently, different cuisines demand different facilities, and so the kitchen evolves. And so all these things change as we become richer, as we evolve. We need to have
new things.
New things, yeah.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Reviews and ratings are super important to the ongoing sustainability of this podcast. To leave a review for me on Apple, tap the search button on the bottom right and type in modern furniture design. Then tap on my thumbnail. It takes you to my page, and at the bottom, tap to rate and write a review too. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. Thank you. So tell me a little bit more about the event. How difficult is it to get into one of the launch parties?
Oh, yeah. Well, you have to
put on a disguise.
You have to be connected.
Fake an entrance pass.
Right, you have to be connected, absolutely. So I've not attended a launch event for many years, but even back then, when I was working for Floss, I had access, which was a real privilege. But the minute you're no longer part of the industry, part of a connected community, it becomes really different. And so then it's really who you know, okay, and trying to, in some way getting into these events. And I think that was part of the fun as well. Trying to get into Capellini or Cassina was super elite, okay, and that was always really difficult. Capellini was young and hip. It was like going to a nightclub, and so I think now it's still quite difficult. They still have big events, absolutely, because they're preparing material for the various online products that they need to send their new offerings out, and so they have to have these events because it sort of communicates a type of company that they are and the people that are coming to these events. So non-designers but celebrities turning up to launches now is quite a common thing.
Do you think part of the popularity of the event is due to the popularity of design as something to study at university and as a career path? When I was studying design, we had maybe 30 students in our class. These days at uni, you've got more than 100.
That's right.
So it's more than tripled in size since the 80s and the 90s. So I guess that in some way has to contribute to the popularity of an event like Salone, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot more designers, but there's also a lot more need. In this world of the digital society that we live in, there's a lot of abstract or intangible things in our life, which is true. However, our life is dominated by tangible things, again, the products, and so they're never going to go away. Okay, we're not going to stop sitting or needing a desk or reading books or using phones. We're going to always need products, and they need to be designed. And so, the fact that those objects still need to be produced in a competitive environment means that they need then to be communicated and exhibited and compared one against the other for then people to make it sort of a call. People are now much more mobile, so designers from all around the world can easily get to Milan now. Milan now is much more of an international city, so the language issues I think have been addressed, and so more and more designers are coming. So and it's a moment. I think every industry needs some sort of moment, whatever it is, that we come together and we recognise that this is what's new, and this is what maybe is not so good, and these are the people, and celebrate what we do. And I think design as a profession is really interesting, and it's becoming more and more appealing, I think, because whereas the pure arts are really wonderful, inspiring, important, and all of that, it's often hard to make a living being an artist, and very few can be pure artists and make a living. And I think design offers, in that sense, a bit of a compromise. There is certainly that creative component that is absolutely necessary, but there's also a very pragmatic side to design, that things need to be able to be used by people, they need to be able to be made, within a certain context, be that price or a market or a material.
So the skill of what you're saying is the skill of the designer is transferable to other things.
That's right. And so design, we produce a lot of designers here at this university, as do other universities. A lot of these students will go into design-related work, but they'll go into other work where maybe they're not designing, but they are certainly using their design skills. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on for a little bit the rise to prominence in terms of furniture design of the Italians.
Oh, yeah.
What makes Italians good at design?
Okay, there's a lot to it. Culturally, they're an aesthetically sensitive group of people. Okay, based on their history. I don't know if it's the location, the climate that has encouraged this artistic activity for centuries, and so they've been aware. And as a student, you grow up, or as a student, you grow up with all this beauty around you through osmosis. It gets in. So
just tell our listeners where you grew up and your design education history.
Okay, so my parents are Italian, and they migrated to Australia in the 50s. I was born here in Cooma, in the Snowy Mountains. I did my undergraduate in Australia, and then I moved to Italy. I completed my postgraduate Masters in Milan, and I worked in Milan in Italy for Floss, sort of an important lighting design company. And upon returning, I've now entered university, and I'm a lecturer of industrial design.
So you did your design education in Italy. You worked for a very famous design company, Floss, for a little while, and so tell us more about Italians in design.
So the Italians in the design, right? And so I think an important moment just before the Second World War, Mussolini, who was a fascist dictator and generally a bad person, he was responsible for enacting a particular type of business model called an SRL, which essentially enabled small businesses, artistic businesses, some tax concessions.
Yes.
Okay, and so these artisans now could generate a living. So people that were making tin pots or weaving chairs could really devote their time to that and make a business out of it and make a living. So that then was stalled, I suppose, because of the war. But then after the war, when people needed chairs, pots, coffee pots, and all that sort of thing, lights, all these artisans came out and started doing things. So you've got this desire to make, okay, and an incentive to make and sell, so the commercialization. Add that to the cultural richness of this nation that has a history of being creative and artistic, and add that to the entrepreneurial spirit.
Sure.
And you've got this blend that is quite unique, and also the rebirth of post-Second World War. The renewal of the country. That allowed for creatives to be creative, but also the entrepreneurs to say, yeah, okay, let's do it. When Castiglione designed the tractor chair in '62, okay, that the entrepreneurs of Zanotta, you got to take your hat off to them. To commercialize a product like that really takes guts, right?
Yeah.
You didn't see elsewhere, and you only saw it in Italy, and that's replicated across all the product typologies in right across Italy. And so from there, then supplying to their local community, their local market, expanded to providing products to Europe more globally, which meant they grew.
And those companies, I mean, they should be celebrated, shouldn't they? Because
Absolutely.
These days, everyone's worried about risk.
Yeah.
And they're worried about the bottom line. As you say, it takes a lot of guts to look at a design straight out of left field, not being able to do any sort of sales forecasting on a crazy idea, and yet still have the conviction to support something like that.
Yeah. It's unique because the one thing that I learned quickly in Italy was that these companies don't actually have marketing departments. It's the entrepreneur, that, and the designer, and together they formulate a strategy and they take the risk. The entrepreneur takes the financial risk. And a lot of times these risks, they fail. Some of these products don't go anywhere, but of course a lot of them do succeed. And the rest
because
is
these companies are the patrons of our day, like just as the Medicis were.
Absolutely.
Back in the Renaissance, it's a similar sort of model, isn't it?
Absolutely. Gandini, Piero Gandini at Floss. And Philippe Stark, Mr. Gandini, Piero's father, and Castiglione, Capellini, Giovannoni, and Alessi. There are all these, relationships that are really important, and there's lots of them. But there is that important connection between a creative, someone wanting to develop something innovative or something new, or responding to something that's occurred in the environment or in technology or in material, and an entrepreneur that wants to sort of, be at the cutting edge. So these are guys that want to lead. They're leading in many ways, and I think that's something absolutely we need to.
So going back to the question about why Italians are so good at design or have this amazing history, I guess it comes down to just the general history, like things like the Renaissance informing, a design sensibility, I guess, having that business model of the patron, the Medicis back in the 1500s, and then to this day you've got companies that act as patrons like Floss and the Capellinis, the Cartels, what have you. Any other factors?
I think there are. I think there's this sense. It's a sensibility and a desire for quality. And if you think about also their cuisine, so food is really important to the Italians, and eating at a table.
Yeah, so they're very sensual.
Yeah, and so it's just not any food; it's particular food. They can talk about the origin, the quality, the olive oil, the cheese, the meat, what have you. Okay, wherever you go. Okay, so that becomes an important moment. To be able to do that, you need to sit on something, you need to put your plate on something, the plate needs to be there, the knife and fork needs to be there, the glass needs to be there, all these support elements need to be there to facilitate that. And, where they see quality in their food, quality of the olive oil, the quality of the cheese, what have you, the quality of the pasta, they'll look for quality in, their garments, in the objects they put in their homes, or in, where they work. Absolutely.
So it's a heightened sense of visual stimulation. That's really interesting to hear you mention that, because it's very different to the origins of Scandinavian design, for instance. Like with the Scandinavians, it's all about being inside because the weather's too cold outside, right? So they have to make everything comfortable and homey. And I guess that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because the Italians are so expressive. So you see that in the things that they manufacture and produce.
Yeah, I think they're they're more out. They're more vocal. They're more outgoing. They're more expressive. Absolutely. So they're not shy in that sense. Well, of course, we're being extremely general here, but I think it's safe to say. And so that's replicated. If you're in a creative industry or a manufacturing industry, that's coming out in what you do as well.
Now, the other thing that I've always wondered about is, and I'm not sure whether you might have any answers to this question, but the Italians are so good at manufacturing, particularly their injection molding of plastics. Amazing quality, amazing expertise. How do they do it? How did such a small country become so good at manufacturing things?
Yeah, I know, and I can feel your passion. Even for injection molding, you think anyone can injection mold. Well, no, you can't. No. Okay, and it's like anything. All right,
it's a real art.
It's an art. Okay, whatever you do, you try and do it to the best of your capabilities, and that's what they try and do. It's like, they just want to excel at whatever they do. And if that's making a tool for an injection molded part, they're going to make it really well. Okay. If it's the machine that makes the tool to make the injection molded part, they're going to make that machine really well. And in fact, they're famous for their machines, their tool making machines. And so it's this approach to wanting to do a good job, wanting to be careful and wanting to do it right. And then maybe also because they know that people can tell this is a good injection molded part and this is a crap one. Maybe they know that, I don't know. But certainly it's that desire to want to be the best that they possibly can. And maybe it could be, internal competition, with other companies. I don't know, but there is absolutely.
Do you think that, because I found it interesting what you said about Mussolini in that era, where small business and enterprise was very much supported, do you think that has got something to do with it as well?
Yeah, I'm sure that had something to do with it, because that was like a commercial incentive.
Yeah.
And so people then could see they could make a living. And so that then just, meant people, even automotive, how many brands of automobiles are made in Italy? There's quite a number. Same with cars, furniture brands, fashion brands, motorbikes. And so all of these companies had very humble beginnings, small shops making one at a time, okay? And then as this tax support came through, they could make a living and grow. And so they grew, and Alfa Romeo grows into Alfa Romeo, and what's a motorcycle brand?
Moto Guzzi,
there's lots of them. They grow from these small things, and they grow and grow and grow and become, and by adopting all of these sort of quality, creative, pursuit of excellence, they can compete. Okay, so the other thing to note here is that these companies still exist in a context that is rife with copies. Okay, and so to be able to compete and survive in that environment is also saying that design is important, a pursuit of excellence is important, because if you can do that, you can survive. Okay.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you want to get in touch with me, I would love to hear from you. You can follow me and DM me on Facebook and Instagram under Modern Furniture Design. You can also go directly to the Modern Furniture Design blog at www.paranormaldesign.com and comment there or drop me an email. I can't wait to hear your feedback and thoughts. Thanks guys. Does it help to have like a figurehead of a certain movement or industry? I saw this amazing documentary on the plane, I think it was last year. It was about the Agnelli family.
Right. Giovanni Agnelli, yeah.
Giovanni Agnelli, brilliant, and if our listeners get a chance to watch this documentary, it's amazing. His life. He was such a charismatic kind of figurehead and frontman for the automotive companies that he led. Do you see that happening in the furniture industry? I mean, I guess you have the B&B Italia, the Busnelli brothers. You have the Casina family. I guess through history you have those moments and those champions of design.
Absolutely, I think it's fundamental. You got Patrizio Moroso at Moroso, Giulio Cappellini at Cappellini, Gandini at Floss. Absolutely, the entrepreneur is a single leader. He's got a vision, and he can pull, that company along, and there's no mistaking, what that company's about. And I think the clarity that's achieved by having a single person is a strong, a very important reason why a lot of the Italian brands do so well. Even all the the automotive brands, they started with a person, Ferrari, for argument's sake.
Yep. And you just don't see that at that level in any other country. Like, I can't think of any other country that has that concentration of design companies or design rich companies as Italy.
Yeah, I think it's
like
unique.
you can just rattle on forever the famous design houses and what have you.
Yeah.
I don't see that in French history.
No.
Apologies to all our French listeners.
Yeah, but even in Japan,
but
which has a rich manufacturing history, you know, their companies now are so big that they're, you know, not, you can't have a sort of a single figurehead. But they do, but they're not, you know, family related a lot of the times. So it is a unique situation, absolutely, in Italy, and hence why, you know, it can't be repeated. A lot of the time, you know, when I first came back from Italy, people were always asking me, "Oh, how can we do what the Italians do?" And I think, well, you know, it's a lot of things that, you know, need to be there for it to occur, and that's another one, you know.
Yeah, sure. So we're 2020. Are the Italians, do they have that much, are they still the heavyweights of the design universe?
That's a good
or has
question.
that faded away a little bit as the world becomes more connected and globalized?
I think the Italian brands are still at the top of the pile. I think now, for example, designers are coming from all over the place. You know, the Dutch have really been very successful over recent time. So the creative input is possibly no longer, you know, of a direct Italian heritage, but the facility to which to, you know, share this creativity is definitely Italian in terms of the brands of the companies. So I think they still play a really important role.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's just that creative input now is much more diverse, and I think that's them also recognising that, you know, there are great designers all around the world, not just in Italy. But the companies, though, you know, although, you know, other companies pop up every now and again from other places, there's, you know, it's, you know, odd examples around the place, but the most of them are still, you know, based in Italy.
And what about prominent Italian designers? Now, so in my design life, I took some time off to do other things. So during the noughties mainly, I was away from design for a good 12 years. So I missed a whole chunk of design history for a while. And I came back in like 2015.
Yeah.
And I'm not hearing news about new Italian designers anymore. Am I missing something here, or?
No, there's not. You know, I think there's a.
You know, because all the players of yesteryear are still in the game.
Well, this is it. They're hanging
Citterio,
on. Yeah. De Lucchi, you know, Branzi, Giovannoni.
Yep,
you know, they're still there. So they're still working and operating. And I think, you know, there are some, you know, the only name that I can think of now is Fabio Novembre. He's sort of a, you know, younger generation designer. There is another one, but his name escapes me. So there is some there, absolutely. And I think that's important. But I think, you know, because of the cachet that the sort of the, you know, these, you know, leading founding fathers of Italian design bring, you know, that they still are, you know, asked to produce new work. You know, Michele De Lucchi and you know, Rodolfo Dordoni, Giovannoni. You know, these people are still producing work, and you know, some of them, you know, you know, Sozzas passed away not long ago. Castiglione's been gone now more than 10 years. You know, Magistretti, I think, is still alive.
Right.
You know, so.
But there's no one new. I'm just fascinated by what drives design around the world these days, and I just wonder whether Italian designers have maybe had their day, like in the same way that, you know, American designers back in
the mid-century,
the 50s and 60s have, you know, lost their domination of design.
Well, absolutely. I think in the post Second World War period, it was right up until the 70s and 80s, it was all Italians.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've had a good run.
They had a great run. Yeah, that's right. They had total control. Then I think the English came in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Morrison, Irving, Dixon. So a lot of English designers.
Yeah.
Some French, of course. Stark and still very prominent. And more, of course, the Scandinavians as well. There are a lot of Scandinavian designers, and then I think more recently it's been about the Dutch.
Who knows what's next? Maybe it's the Chinese.
Maybe,
maybe.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see if there's one particular group of people that can sort of dominate like it has in the past, or if it's just going to sort of become this sort of amalgamation of lots of different, cultural inputs.
Are you going to Milan this year?
Yes, I'm taking a group of students and heading off on the 19th of April and looking forward to it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just one of those events that captures the imagination of the industry for a few days a year.
Yeah.
An amazing thing. So it's been great talking to you about the Salone and other things, and there's so much we could talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe another episode. But I do like to finish off my my podcasts with a couple of questions for my guests. The first one is, can you talk to or talk a little bit about one of your favourite Salone moments?
Sure, absolutely. It was 1994, and I had a piece exhibited, and so this was going to be my moment. So 1994, I was working for Floss. Floss had a number of lighting brands. In the Floss stand, only two lights were being launched. The Rosie Angelis by Philippe Starck, this three-legged floor lamp, and a re-edition of the Castiglione Luminator, which is a three-legged light as well. And it was a beautiful stand just with these two products. Then in the adjacent stand there was Arte Luce, their sort of sister brand, and I had designed a series of garden outdoor lights, and they were on display next to work by Rodolfo Dordoni and Mark Sadler as well.
Wow.
And it was amazing, of course, because I was part of the company that we were setting up the stand. Then I had my designs there, and so that was a real important moment for me that I'll never forget. And as a designer, that's where you want to be. Unfortunately, like some products don't go anywhere. My product didn't go anywhere, but I'll never forget that moment.
Fantastic. Can I share one with you?
Yeah.
So I think it was 2002, and Alessi back then was maybe at the height of its domination and influence, and it might have been my first or second Salone, I can't remember exactly, but I remember seeing their exhibit, their launch of their bathroom collaboration with Laufen. I think they're Swiss manufacturers of bathware, and in the design news it was a really big story. It was a huge collaboration. For their exhibit, they filled an abandoned basement full of water. There must have been 4 or 5 Olympic pool size spaces filled with water, lit up beautifully in this turquoisey kind of light, with all of their launch products submerged at the bottom of these pools. And that for me just summed up Salone. The ritz and the glamour, the going to extraordinary lengths to promote design, the theatre, the passion for it. That is definitely something I'll never forget. So, look, it's been great talking to you, Berto. Thanks for sharing your experiences and your knowledge. We'll have to get you on the show again to discuss another aspect of furniture design. Have fun at this year's one.
Thank you.
I wish I could join you, but sadly not. Yeah, we'll talk again.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much. Cheers. And thanks to Berto for giving us a taste of the Milan Furniture Fair. Now, do you have a favourite Salone moment? Then why not share it in the comments section below? I really do appreciate those of you who take the extra 20 seconds or so to show some love, rate the podcast, or share it with others who have our passion for furniture design. Now, this show is recorded and produced by me, Danny Chung. The title music is by Screenfeeder, and you can reach me at www.paranormaldesign.com. You can also follow me on social media through all the usual channels. But until the next episode, it's bye for now.